Yeah, excellent. Welcome everybody to the last Wednesday of the month, which is when we do our Modern Leadership Circle sessions. Now, I'm really excited. I've just been saying to the ladies before I pressed the record button for this morning, welcome everybody live, welcome everybody on record and replay. Today's session is going to be a little bit different. Today's session is, because I am so incredibly passionate about this subject, it's not probably going to be as interactive as it could be, but please stop me at any given moment to ask a question, to give some experience, to share an opinion or a thought. But it might end up being an info session, and it's an info session because there is so much I would love to and want to share with you on this particular subject that is, you know, really passionate side of my own work and what I do with leaders. So there's a lot of giving for me to be doing this morning in the next 30 minutes. Why? Because we are talking about a four-letter word that is arguably as strong as another four-letter word, LOVE, but today we're talking about hope. And before I go there, I just want everybody to think just for a moment. If I was to ask you to think about the most inspirational or iconic leader that you believe is, you know, in the world historically, currently, you know, one of the most iconic, inspirational leaders, I wonder who it would be. Who would it be? Shout it out, put it into the chat, just think about it in your brain. It doesn't matter. You don't have to share it with them, but just think about that person. And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to think to yourself, why? Why are they so iconic in your eyes? Why are they so inspirational to you or have been? And I bet you bottom dollar it's because they have instilled hope in others, or they instill hope in you. It's been around forever and a day, this beautiful thing called hope. Now, I was reading an article by a gentleman called Marcus Mauro, and fantastic article, and I've got the link in the slides for you to access after today's session. And in that article, you know, he talks about the reality of the world that we're living in today. Yes, we are living in a world that for some people it is a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. For other people it's a BANI world or a BANI world, which is brittle, anxious and non-linear and kind of, you know, I can't remember what the I stands for in Barney, but anyway, I'll come back to you on that one. They are very fear-driven. They have very fear-driven ways of describing the world that we live in today. Whereas those of you that know the practice of the Dilyn Way, know the practice of our framework for humanising change, transformation, business, leadership and work, know that we like to talk about UPOPO, untapped potential and possibility. Now, untapped potential and possibility is a different spin on those two acronyms, VUCA and BANI, because they bring hope to it. Now, Marcus in his work actually says this: the cracks between leaders and their employees are now chasms, and employee engagement is at an all-time low. I wonder whether you feel that. I wonder whether you experience that. I wonder how that sits for you if you're thinking about yourself within a work environment, your peer group, the leaders within your work environment. So what is hope? Why, you know, what is it about hope? A lot of people, when they first think of the word hope, think it's a little bit woolly. Think it's a little bit soft, you know, round around the edges, you know, but it's not. Hope, more than anything else, is powerful. Hope is absolutely powerful because hopeful people set goals that end up becoming more successful that in terms of achieving them than those who demonstrate less hope. So there's statistical evidence to show that hope is powerful in the workplace because it can actually generate better and higher results. So hope is powerful. Hope is also strategic. And if we look at the work of Deborah Mills Schofield, who's also written a book, she talks about how hope is a critical part of successful strategy. Now, I spend a lot of my time working with leaders, tutoring and lecturing in strategic management. And it's really interesting how when we get to a part of the day and we talk about what are the challenges that drive strategy in terms of strategic failure, which is up to 87%. And what are the opportunities that turn that around and support strategy being successful? And very few of us actually think about hope. And yet in the work of Deborah Mills-Schofield, we recognise that hope is a critical part of achieving successful strategic execution, as she describes here in this quote. So hope is powerful. Hope is strategic. Hope is also resilient. And here, again, looking at Michael Mauro and his work, when things do go wrong, and by the way, the word do is really important here, because we know not everything in life is perfect. We know that nothing in life is a straight line. Nothing in a project is a straight line. Nothing in strategy is a straight line. So when things go wrong, hope provides individuals and teams that sense that they are not alone because something that they have done or something around them has gone wrong. They feel led. If there is hopeful leadership, there is that sense of feeling that we are being led. There's that play between protection and permission. I have permission to try, and if it doesn't go according to plan, I know that I am still protected. So it's very, very important for us also to recognize that out of hope, we get resilience. There is some work as well by Dr. Cockle and Dr. Joan MacArthur Blair. And this is really interesting because this starts to transition the conversation around hope more specifically to the world of change and transformation in our work environment. And what they talk about in their research is hope allows leaders to move with change and not let the change take them and their organizations into the ground. Therefore, hope is a core of forward momentum. So hope gives us movement. Hope gives us that drive, that desire, that belief in order for us to make a change, to move, to take action. And in the world of change and transformation, we know that bringing people on the journey, getting people started is arguably one of the biggest success factors in change and transformation, that ability to get people moving. And what gets people moving, one of the key things is hope, everything that we've talked about just there. So if we're going to define hope, there's different definitions of hope. There's different lenses to hope. But I think for me, one of the definitions that I love is this one here. Hope is the ability to leap forward with expectation of being able to achieve and evolve and grow and be better. It's so incredibly important. So based on what I just said in the previous slide, and based on what I've just said here, there's something for us to consider here as modern leaders, as practitioners around change and transformation. Is hope something that we have or don't have? Or is hope a practice? Now, for me, I believe that hope is a practice. Hope is a practice because it is the manifestation of a belief that there is something better around the corner, or there is a positive way of addressing the reality of now and the present. So for me, I absolutely adhere to this. Hope is a practice that is the manifestation of a belief of a better and brighter future. So is hope something you have or don't have? Is hope, therefore, a practice? And that's just a question. That's just something for you to think about, a reflective practice for us all today as we go through work and life. this whole concept of hope has been around for quite a while, and it is definitely one of the cornerstones of positive psychology. And we can see that there is a lot of academic research that has been driven out of Schneider's work, starting with the publication in 2002 around hope theory. And in Snyder's study there, he explored the narrative of hopeful leaders within organizations to see how that gained more momentum in success and bringing people on the journey of change and transformation than leaders that were arguably less hopeful in their narrative, in their way of working, in their practice, driven by their belief. So I really do, if you haven't already, I really do encourage you all to go and have a look at Snyder's work around hope theory. And of course, as always, there are links in the notes section to these slides. And for today, because there is such a wealth of information around the concept of hope, in terms of hope leadership, in terms of using hope strategically in change and transformation, and also fundamentally around hope theory. So I've got some additional slides. I've also got some links and videos here for you. So please do, when I send out the email with the recording replay later on today or tomorrow, if you would like access to these slides because you're curious and you want to know more, then I'm more than happy to share them with you. But in Snyder's concept of hope theory, he splits the concept of hope theory into three areas. The first one is hope, for him, theoretically, is when there is a goal. And basically, the key thing here is that you're not looking to the future and, it's a wing and a prayer. Actually, there's a sense of realism. There's something that you can hold on to. You might not be able to see the future. You're visualizing it, but there is belief in possibility. There is belief that there's something in there to anchor that we can get something out of that vision. So goal, a realism around future goal, is the first element that Snyder talks to. And by the way, each one of these is really important. The next one is this sense of agency, this ability to stay motivated to meet that goal. So it's really important for us to believe that good things will come from our actions. It's really important for us to understand that. So whether things go right or wrong, something is to be celebrated or something is to be learned. It is the willpower and agency to keep moving forward through action. Something is either to be celebrated or it is to be learned through our action. Agency and willpower. And if we've got that realistic anchor in the future, as well as this absolute motivation to, believe that good things come from our actions, either celebration, success, or learning to keep going, then we can create what he calls the pathway. And the pathway is your specific route to develop and meet your goals. This is individual as well as team, as well as systemic. It's really important for us to understand that. And just thinking about these three things to create the environment, to empower people around us, to identify these things for themselves, for us to strategically identify these for change and transformation, is really bringing in the concept of hope theory into our work as modern leaders. Fantastic. So, benefits around hope theory is we can get change going. We can get going. We can get things done and celebrate or learn from it. So we can keep going, keep things according to the goal. Really, really important. Lovely quote here from Norman Cousins. The capacity for hope is the most significant fact of life. It provides each and every one of us as a human being with a sense of destination. That's our goal, a realism in that goal, and the energy to get started because there's motivation to go there, because we believe that it is achievable. It won't be what we vision, but it is achievable. So this is core fundamental stuff that we need to be thinking about as leaders. But thinking about as leaders, what does that mean? It means, how do we show up with hope? How do we show up as hopeful leaders? How do we instill some of this goal for the future, which has got some realism in it, and motivation to act and to create pathway to keep energy moving? The first thing is narrative. And you all have heard me say in the past, I'm sure, the power of word, the power of word, the power of word. I think, you know, one of the fundamental ways for us ourselves to become more powerful, hopeful leaders, to you know, enable more successful change around us, is to think about our words, is to think about our narrative, is to think about our storytelling, is to think about the energy that we bring, not just to the spoken word, but also to our thinking words, and also to our, you know, our kinesthetic words, our physical words, you know, our movements, etc., etc. Yes, I know we're on Teams and Zooms all day long and every day, but we can still, you know, we can still bring energy. We can still create a little bit of movement, you know, a sad face versus a happy face, a little bit of movement in our hands. And Vishen Lakhiani is an absolute guru in that concept of moving with hands on screen in order to keep the energy going and give people hope for what he's talking about and his message. So narrative, spoken, mental, physical, kinesthetic. What I want to do now is I want to share strategically 3 very key high-level areas that we as hopeful leaders might want to think about, just maybe tweaking if we haven't already addressed these things. The first thing is, how do we position the future? How do we actually position the future as a hopeful leader? You know, think about John F. Kennedy. Think about Martin Luther King when he talked about, I have a dream. Oh my goody aunt, he was in the, you know, in the throes of complexity, in the throes of anxiety and fear, and just so much going on in America at the time. But his positioning of the future in his speech was really significant. I go back to that speech and I look at how he positioned it in his narrative, and it's really, really interesting how he positions the future, because the future is ours to control. The future is ours to take if we are willing to unite and stand, and each and every one of us take a single step forward. It's powerful stuff. And it's from the 60s, and it's still relevant today in this crazy VUCA, Banny, and UPOPA world that we live in. So we can paint the right picture. We can sing the right song in our energy frequency, and we can say the right words. And if that isn't enough to convince you, then on the right-hand side of this screen, I've got you know, some lovely work out of Gallup. Now, Gallup have talked about strength-based leadership since back in 2012. And if you have a look at some of the work that Gallup talk about, their scientists have worked incessantly on this concept of strength-based leadership. Hope is one of the 4 cornerstones. Hope is one of the 4 cornerstones. And yet, in our leadership development, in our own personal professional development, in learning and development provision in our organizations, how explicit are we in giving hope development, in helping people understand what hope is and build hopeful leadership up within their own practice? That's a question to take away for the day, isn't it? Yeah. So, positioning for the future. But don't get me wrong, there is also the need to position for the present, as again, painting the right picture, singing the right song, saying the right words. Hope is not woolly. Hope is not so rounded around the edges that it's just this beautiful kind of comic book vision of the future. It's not. Hope also can give us that resilience in the moment that might be really complex and difficult now. And as Gallup again do say, hope is about here and now as well as the future, right? We are able to if we are being hopeful in the way that we paint pictures, sing songs in frequency, energy, and say the right words, we're able to address challenges together. Pride in adversity. If you look online and look at some of the very, very, very present research that's happening right now, articles that have been written right now around hope, a lot of the time, the example that is cited is the Ukrainian war, is Zelensky and his leadership. And how that is absolutely a contemporary example of individual hopeful leadership. And there's a ripple effect, because hopeful leadership is sticky. Hopeful leadership is so pervasive, it ripples out. And when you have a look at how the Ukrainian nation have individually taken on board this concept of hopeful leadership for themselves in their own lives, and you see amazing things. You know, the story, if you haven't heard of it, the story of the lady that gave a packet of seeds to a Russian soldier. You know, beautiful, beautiful stories. If you look back at Churchill and Hitler in the Second World War, and you read books like Humankind, what you will see in there is that they took on board the old historical concept of psychology, working with old psychologists pre-positive psychology. And what they did was they thought that if we bomb London, in the UK, Hitler thought and was told by his psychologists, if you bomb London, you will break the heart of the nation and you will then be able to win the war. But the London Blitz didn't break the heart of London or the UK nation. It galvanized the nation, because Churchill delivered a hopeful speech. He united the nation and we came together. So hopeful leadership can actually get us out of difficult situations, can help us through, if it is action orientated, if it is responsive, if it helps hydrate the people around us and not dehydrate. If we react and say, survive, 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 make it thinner, make it smaller, survive, 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 that's not hopeful leadership. That's basically saying, I don't have hope in the future, so we need to hang on to everything that we've got and survive, because we don't know what the future will bring. If our leaders are giving us a sense of that, that's not hopeful leadership. Really interesting to think about that. And inclusion is something very, very important. Inclusion is something that we see a lot with hopeful leadership. It is where there is provision, space and time for individuals to see themselves in the future. And you see that in the iconic speeches of these amazing inspirational leaders historically, and still today with Zelensky, and still today potentially in your organization around change and transformation, because individuals can see themselves in that future and where they fit in that future. Very, very, very important. Hopeful leadership is so incredibly important. Hopeful leadership is part of modern leadership. Hopeful leadership is also a key ingredient for successful humanized change and transformation. So of course it is part of our fundamental work around the Dilyn Way here in Adapter Digital. And if you would like to engage and know more about how to yourself work with us and myself in particular, or indeed your organization, we have leadership group programs, we have one-to-one leadership mentoring and coaching programs, and we also have practitioner programs predominantly that sit alongside group work. But if you would like to know a little bit more about how you yourself or your organization can bring some of this modern mindedness and hopeful leadership into your own change and transformation, or for yourself, or indeed you'd like to know more for you to bring it into your own work and practice as a practitioner, please do be in touch with me, and I'll share with you some contact details in a moment. But I also want to let you know that I have my passion project that is all about time, energy, and attention mastery. This is really my work with individuals that talks to high impact transformational leadership. High impact transformational leadership is when we as individuals are masters of time, energy, and attention. And by the way, within energy and attention, one of the fundamentals is hopeful leadership. And if you haven't already been made aware, I would like to let you know that it is October, and this month is a celebration and a real effort to bring awareness around menopause. And one of the things that I'm doing as well is offering a very specific customized coaching program to women that are in midlife or second phase, or maybe even third phase careers. And one of the things that I will say, and I'm celebrating this because I can see Lorraine on the call today, how we have got within Scottish Government some very specific leadership development efforts being made to give provision to women in government that are going through menopause. There are self-leadership development programs that are being driven out of Scottish Government. I think that is amazing and should be celebrated. So fantastic stuff there. And of course, anything that I've just said, if you'd like to know more, connect with me via email, via LinkedIn. Join our group, Tea with Mel, on LinkedIn, because it's kind of kooky, but it's cool. And also, if you want a little bit of a laugh, you can also join me and follow me on Instagram at Modern Mindset Mentor. That's a little bit of more informal flavor, but you know what? It's all with a serious undertone. Before I finish today, I told you it was an info session. I told you there was lots for me to share with you, and there's more still beyond today's session. So please, please, please do ask for the slides if anything that I'm talking about today inspires you or piques curiosity and interest. But how do we build hope? You know, over and above what I've said, how do we build hope? As leaders, we need to ensure that we are visible and present in terms of being hopeful leaders. We absolutely do. And in our openness, in our vulnerability, in our realism as part of being hopeful leaders, we can make things possible for others. There is something which is called the possibility mindset. A lot of us also think about, you know, working our time around prioritization, but there is also, you've got your Eisenhower prioritization matrix, but you also have the possibility matrix as well. And I love the possibility matrix because in the world of change and transformation, we're around hopeful leadership, thinking about what we need to do based on the prioritization of possibility and what is possible is kind of cool. So thinking about how we cultivate and focus on possibility in practice and cultivate and develop our possibility mindset is really important. Thinking about others, thinking about creating space and time for people around us to think about themselves, to connect in with who they are, their uniqueness, their strengths, so that they can follow their hopeful leadership, action, agency, goal, agency, and pathway. Future casting, excuse the typo, is very, very important. Future casting is about visualizing myself, visualizing ourselves. It is so powerful to connect people into the future. I think something else as well, we don't have time to talk to today because I know we're at the the 30-minute mark, but something that is important, and I do have some additional information on this, is this penultimate element here, creating enabling boundary. In order for us to move forward with agency and motivation into a future, a hopeful future, we need to have control, boundary, and we need to have mastery, which is skill and competency. Both control and mastery give us boundary. That's really important for us to consider. So something for you to all reflect on in your own hopeful leadership and your work. And finally, active versus passive hope. Again, sadly, no time to talk about that, but from an info session perspective, I want to just raise it. I want to make it visible for you to take away with, and just to let you know that there is a wonderful book that Joanna Macy and Chris Scott Johnston have written around this concept between active and passive hope. There are some slides here that just give you some additional information around how you might start to bring the concept of hope theory into your own work. So just think about your own goal-orientated thinking, how goal-orientated you are in terms of hopeful goal rather than necessity-driven goals, in order for you to find your pathways to then keep moving forward. Before I bring today's session to a close, I wonder whether anybody on today's call, live or on record, are thinking this: yeah, but how do we measure this stuff, Mel? How do we know where potentially we are on this kind of hopeful leadership, hopeful culture stuff, and how might we potentially measure it moving forward as an intangible but very, very, very powerful measure of success around change and transformation? Well, believe it or not, there are ways of measuring. There is the SHS State Hope Scale that is talked about predominantly out of America, but also the Adult Hope Scale. And I personally would go to the Adult Hope Scale because it is something that we can bring into our work and our culture. It's driven out of hope theory. It's driven out of the work of Snyder, and it's really, really good stuff. So again, I have got, if you'd like to think about how on earth will we measure this? What does this actually look like? How could I actually bring this into a business case to leaders within change and transformation strategies? Well, you might want to go to the Adult Hope Scale just to see what is available there. Hope. I love this because hope is heliotropic. And what do I mean by that? It's just like a flower always looks to the sun for it to be fed what it needs to grow and evolve. And I think hope does exactly the same for us. It gives us the sun. It gives us something to direct all of us, to unitedly direct ourselves towards a single thing that can feed us and energize us and show us what is possible. So, as a lasting final thought, I think that is, certainly for me, something that's really, really inspiring around hope. Hopeful leadership is definitely something that I commit to in my practice. Hopeful leadership and possibility mindset are two things that I absolutely live and breathe. And I would hope that people that know me and work with me would concur. And I hope most sincerely that this info session today has sparked a little bit of curiosity for you and a little bit of motivation to go and find out some more about hopeful leadership for yourself and hopeful mindset for your change and transformation strategy. And the final quote for today: if as a leader you are not creating hope and helping people to see the way forward realistically, chances are no one else is either. So there's something really important here to not think that it's somebody else's job and role. Hopeful leadership is something absolutely for us to stand in. And Lorraine, again, just to nod to you here, we know one of the principles of our practice for modern leadership that we work towards, that we commit to, is, of course, focus on power over force. It's our own practice that makes the big difference in order for us to create a ripple effect. I've gone a few minutes over. I apologize for that. But as I said at the start, a really, really, really passionate subject for me, a huge amount of information and sources for you to go and explore the concept of having a hope driven mindset, and also thinking about the rudiments of hopeful leadership for yourself. I'm more than happy to take a question or a thought from everybody, but I am also conscious that we've gone a few minutes over today. So if you have to go, what I will do is bid you adieu and say have a fantastic and amazingly hopeful, successful day, or a day of learning. And I will see you on the last Wednesday of next month, November, to talk about another element of modernity, both in terms of leadership, and change and transformation. So go well, stay safe, keep healthy, keep hopeful. Thank you very, very much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Mel.
No worries. Thank you.
So much. Bye.
See you.